Okay. I have all, don't mind my hand, there's no plasters, and I sliced it open trying to cut an avocado. Well, I did cut it, but I also cut my hand. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this, the artist's way. It's a funny story. I was just on YouTube, just browsing, and a video, like a super old video from Doechii came up. And at this point I didn't know who she was. Like, I'd maybe heard of her last year. So yeah, so I ended up watching it, and she was talking about her experience and like her journey. So I then went on down this whole rabbit hole. Obviously she's just won a Grammy. And this video was from like 5 years ago. So she is talking about like her creative discovery as an artist and using the artist's way. And I've always been aware of it. Yeah, I've always been aware of the artist's way, but I was always like, oh, I don't really need it, you know. And then I was in Waterstones and I picked it up and I just thought, why not? Because I wouldn't say well, let me backtrack. It's kind of for like unblocking you creatively, and helping you kind of become familiar with like the artist, like the creative person. And so yeah, I wouldn't say at this point that I'm like creatively blocked in some ways, but then in other ways I can tell that I am. Like, there's, I guess it's the inner critic, which is kind of what she talks about in the introduction. She calls it the censor, and she says to think of it like this snake that's like slithering around shouting or like whispering doubts or just mean shit in your ear when you're trying to do something different or new or creative. And I think that's the thing that I am kind of not focused on, but I guess so. Yeah, so I've just finished week 1 and I really enjoyed it. I mean, the 2 tasks were, I'm gonna take this off, I think I've stopped bleeding now. Yeah, the 2 tasks were the morning pages every day, which is just stream of consciousness writing as soon as you wake up, basically, which I found myself literally like, I woke up and I was just like immediately like, I have to sit down and do this. Like it was just so comforting. I'll talk more about that. And then the other thing was the artist dates, which is something I've kind of unintentionally been doing for a long time, but just kind of never gave them a name, I guess. But I kind of knew that those 2 tasks wouldn't be particularly difficult for me, and especially not the artist dates. I don't, like she says in the book that, oh, you know, people will try and put them off or like neglect them or, you know, make excuses or say I can't do them because of this or whatever. Yeah, I don't really have that issue. I think, that being said though, when I did do them, I still got the like little imposter censor in my head, kind of like, you know, this is frivolous and silly and pointless and you should do something different, you should do something real, something that matters, you know, all the usual stuff that your kind of logical, cynical, doubting brain is gonna say. But yeah, so what else? The artist dates, the morning pages. I felt this weird thing after doing the morning pages where, like, when I finished them, it was almost like I was more aware, but at the same time not. Like, because I meditate quite a lot, not bragging, it's not always easy. And I use Headspace, which is like guided. I could not do it otherwise. It's not happening. What was I saying? Yeah. So I would say I'm fairly aware, like I'm aware of my thoughts, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But then when I finished the morning pages, it was like a different level of awareness I would have afterwards, where I would feel like present, but also not present at all, like just completely somewhere else, but in a really good way. You know, like when you're making something, or you're painting, or you're making music, or whatever it is, and you're kind of there, but you're not there, like you're in the flow. I think that's kind of the word I'm looking for. So yeah, I like was just immediately there, and that's never happened to me before. Like that usually happens after I've been sat painting or sketching for like an hour or 25 minutes or however long. So that was quite remarkable, and I was very pleased with that. So yeah, I think this weird part of me from like school and uni and my masters and everything is kind of come back, where I like have this thing inside me where I want to be like a really good student. I want to like show how good I am at doing all these tasks, and like, look how good I am, like I did it all and it was so easy for me. Like there's a bit of that coming out with this one. I'm like, of course I can do the morning pages every day, you know. But then I think I do that in order to avoid the areas that are like quite difficult for me, or like the uncomfortable feelings that I have maybe in like dedicating so much time to being an artist and like dedicating time to my creativity. I think I do that where I'm like, oh yeah, like I did it and it was all great and it was all so good, and then that allows me to avoid the feelings of like fear and doubt. And that's one of the things she says as well, is like listening to that doubt, not in a way of like listening to it and then agreeing with it, but just listening to it and going, like being curious and open about it. So that's been really helpful, I think, because I'm noticing little things now where I'm like, like what am I avoiding here? Yeah, I'm just like, all that being said, I'm still just really, really excited to like keep going with it. Who knows? I'm sure there'll be weeks where I'm just like, there was already a part in week 2 where I was kind of like, it didn't necessarily line up with like, I guess, not necessarily beliefs that I have. She's talking about crazy makers. Basically, in short, like toxic people. And I kind of skimmed past it because I was like, like I don't know, it just didn't resonate with me that much. Like maybe in some places I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. But yeah, so I'm quite excited to do week 2. Another thing that she asks you to do is time travel, basically. So you go back and you look at maybe incidents or things that were said that could be like blocking your creativity. And I just had this one memory come up that I've often kind of thought about over the years, but not really given it any time or attention. I would kind of just be like, that wasn't very nice. I didn't like that, and that like caused me a lot of shame. I felt a lot of shame about it, but didn't really give it any attention. So I gave it some attention and drew a stupid little picture. Where is it? I can't remember where I drew it. And then she says to draw like a big red X through it. But I actually realized that around this memory that I had of something that had happened in art, GCSE maybe, something like that, I had all these things attached to it, all these feelings of like imposter syndrome, like me on my own, my ideas on their own are not good enough. And I can see now how that was then like playing into everything, and it just felt really good to actually look at it and go, oh, like, yeah, that doesn't really resonate with me anymore, actually. Because I feel like I'm at a place now where I trust myself and my ideas on their own. Like, I don't feel like I need to go searching for sources or inspiration or, you know, anything outside of me, basically, which is essentially the whole point of this, is like understanding that you are the source of your creativity. Obviously, like, you're gonna use the world around you always, but as more of like a feedback loop. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anything else. What other reflections did I have? I think one of the main things, yeah, like I said, the imposter syndrome, and one thing I noticed was that I'm kind of becoming more and more aware of the difference between my super logical sensor mind and the creative mind. I'm just more aware of that distinction, which is quite helpful. Her attitude towards the kind of logical sensor mind is kind of similar to like when people say like lizard brain, like it likes familiarity and like safety and things staying the same. It's essentially trying to keep you safe, you know. But then the creative side obviously is just like, that's where the flow is, you know, that's where your ideas are coming from, that's where your, I don't know, that's like loose and free. And yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing with it. Upside down. I honestly, I could talk more about it, but it's getting too long and I don't have that much memory on my phone. But yeah, I think, what am I gonna do now? So I have 2 paintings that I'm working on that I think I'm gonna do a bit more work on today. I have a commission that I need to work on and some other bits and pieces. I've actually been doing pottery, which I've wanted to do for so long, and I was like sorting through all my stuff because I'm going to be moving, and I found all this air dry clay, and then I can't remember if it was like after doing them, I think it was like right after doing the morning pages, I just went and grabbed the clay and I was like, I need to make something. So they're all drying on the windowsill and they're not great, but I honestly love them and I had so much fun doing it, and I'm gonna keep doing it, hopefully improve the more I do, which is often what happens. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop yapping. But yeah, I would highly recommend it so far to anyone, to any human being, anyone who's a human being. But that's just because I have a belief already that people are inherently creative. Yeah. Oh, there was one other thing which I didn't really mention, which is kind of essential. But the whole thing she talks about essentially is like everyone's creative, but we're all kind of blocked in some way. Like we think that our actual dream that we want is like never gonna happen, it's too far off, it's unsustainable, it's whatever, you know. So then we might find fields that are like close to that, but then just have this nagging feeling of like I'm kind of unfulfilled, but we're just like, oh no, you know. And then we come up with excuses as to why we can't, and yeah, that's basically the whole point, which I should have said at the beginning, but I didn't. Or maybe I did, I can't remember. Yeah, okay, yapping, I'm stopping.